Good morning. My name is Mary Ellen Naylor, and I'm going to do a brief overview of Chapter 10 of our text. This chapter demonstrates one state's way to address access and retention in higher education. Indiana developed a program called the 21st Century Scholars Program. This program gave free tuition to any low-income student who took a pledge and signed off on that pledge to prepare for college when they were in the 8th grade. This is available for any low-income students that met qualifications for free or reduced lunch. With this pledge, the students pledge to maintain a 2.0 GPA in high school, avoid drugs and alcohol, illegal activities, and to apply and gain acceptance into a college. This commitment that the students take in 8th grade, if their family's finances change between the 8th grade and graduation of high school, it does not matter. It goes and is based on the family's income when they sign that pledge in 8th grade. This pledge and this program guarantees the student 4 full years of paid tuition. And the good thing about this, and when we look at college readiness, is that this program has in place ways for families to help prepare students for college. They have centers across the state that they can go to for mentoring. They have telephone network system where they can always call and ask questions. And then both the parents and the students are given opportunities to visit college campuses. For those of you who took social foundations in education back in the fall, we reviewed a program out of New York called I Have a Dream. The 21st Century Scholars Program was based on that program in New York. With Indiana, their focus was on how they could expand the educational opportunities to all students to try to reach that equality of education. The 21st Century Scholars Program kind of came on the shirt tails of how they were changing the high school graduation requirements. They wanted to increase the number of students that were actually prepared to go to college. So the state had already committed to reading reform, professional development for teachers, and so all this was an integrated approach to educational policy to promote fairness and increase the access to all students to go to college. So it did require a significant collaboration between researchers and policymakers and the educational system. In 1971, the Indiana Commission for Higher Education was developed, and their primary focus was to define the mission of Indiana's public colleges and universities, to plan and coordinate Indiana's state support systems for post-secondary education, review the budget request, and then to approve or disapprove new programs or expansions. So after this commission was put into place, they actually got to where there was a community college system developed. Prior to that, there was not a formal community college system. And they wanted to improve student achievement in the P16 ages. And so one way that they did this was by developing the Core 40 high school curriculum to improve college readiness. And then they developed a program called Reaching Higher to increase college graduation rates. So again, key factor here, there was still collaboration going on. So Indiana took a balanced approach to increasing this access and retention. The cornerstone was the 21st Century Scholars Program, and where they were increasing the students' college readiness. And if I can get this website pulled up. And what happened here is that within the high school curriculum, there was a focus on college readiness. And so when you look at, this is the Indiana High School Diploma Core 40. When you look down, it had the English, the math, the sciences. But what they did is they include 6 credits here of college and career pathway courses. And then so they have a Core 40 diploma. That is what's required. They also have an academics. They can do a Core 40 honors, and that honors can be in academic honors, where they're taking, additional credits, AP courses. But even within the academic honors, there's a opportunity for them to take more career and college readiness courses. They also have a Core 40 with technical standards, and with this one, they can do more college and career pathway and be able to get certifications in technical programs at the same time. Okay, that didn't work. So funding is always going to be an issue. So when they developed the 21st Century Scholars Program, they worked together to work on a state grant funding. And what they did was, based on those students who had the financial need, they did it on a merit and need-based process. So those students who met the need, if they graduated from high school with an honors diploma, then they were awarded 100% of the tuition cost. If the students graduated under the Core 40, then they got 90% paid for. And then if they graduated with a regular diploma, then they had 80% paid for. Up until 2011, parents still had an opportunity to sign off and not have their students participate in the Core 40 curriculum. That included extra college readiness. What's unclear is how much education was given to the students and parents on the differences between the regular diploma and the Core 40 diploma, and what that would mean in actually preparing the students for college if they decided to go and they did not have that Core 40 diploma. In 1999, there was a study that was done to show that the 21st Century Scholars were more likely to enroll in public two-year colleges or private colleges. And what happened here was these students were getting the funding. If they had done their pledge in 8th grade, they were awarded 4 full years of tuition. But what happened was, as the private colleges started getting more information about this program, they began working more on recruitment and retaining these students. So they actually changed recruiting processes because what they figured out was that once these students got to their campuses, these students brought significant resources with them. And the two-year colleges was a quicker, shorter time to get a degree, and the cost was actually cheaper. So many of these students were more likely to enroll in those two-year colleges. What the public four-year institutions did not show was that they were not changing their recruitment strategies significantly enough to get more enrollment of these 21st Century Scholars. And by not doing that, they kind of lost some of their advantage of being able to get that funding for these students. So Indiana's comprehensive model was dependent on financial incentive for schools, colleges, and students. So the private colleges really kind of stepped up to make things more accessible to these scholars recipients. Indiana Project on Academic Access. This was done in an attempt to research what was being done once these students got to college, what was being done to retain those students, get them to where they were having increased graduation rates. So the team used state and national data systems to track students in the 2000 graduating high school cohort and seeing them from preparation through college. And what the project's research showed was that The way these colleges were increasing retention was through orientation programs, learning communities, supplemental instruction services, and leadership education. So what they found with the funding is that, like funding across the country, the community colleges were seeing an increased enrollment because they could offer tuition at lower costs. And so in around 2000, Indiana's funding for public colleges began to decrease. And as we know, as the funding decreases, a lot of times the response to that is that tuition rates have to increase. So the central feature to Indiana's comprehensive approach was that coordination of tuition charges and the need-based student aid. So in 2008, Indiana was kind of forced to go away from that comprehensive approach a little because they were starting to become in danger of becoming a high tuition, low aid state. We know that anytime we want to do improvement in education, development takes time, implementation takes time. And so this was kind of the case in Indiana, but we also know that policy changes can happen quickly, and the effects of those policy changes tend to happen more quickly than all the development implementation phases does. So there's not always that student outcomes don't always kind of shift immediately as quickly as those changes in policies do. So the importance of this case is that, Indiana first got attention because of the college continuation rates that they had. In 1994, they were below the national average, but after that, over the next decade, as the United States averages started to decline, Indiana's continued to increase, and it was based on these programs that they had put in place with the 21st Century Scholars Program and the comprehensive approach with the grants and the state aid that they were getting. So Indiana was able to illustrate a successful strategy for equalizing access and success in post-secondary education. So they had that balanced framework for identifying and addressing challenges students were facing when engaging in the college choice process. And the state did initiate substantial changes that addressed both access and retention barriers. And so the core to this was that Core 40 high school curriculum that they instated to raise that threshold for college readiness. And then the other part was that 21st Century Scholars Program. That was their signature initiative that was designed to eliminate the cost as a barrier for low-income families. And so getting more engagement in students going to college. So the two questions I have is, the Indiana Project on Academic Success showed improved college retention through orientation programs, learning communities, supplemental instructional services, and leadership education. Many institutions, both 2- and 4-year schools, have these programs in place. But what can we do to improve these programs or increase student involvement in these programs in order to see better retention and better graduation success on our end? And the second question I have is, as leaders and educators, if you had to select one primary barrier to higher education, what would it be and how would you address it? I ask this question because we know that there's so many factors that go on. But if you could choose one, and we're all passionate about something, what would it be and what ideas would you have to address that barrier? Thank you.